There we go. Renee, I can't quite tell from this sentence, but I believe your husband is a pastor at church in Clifton. You clear that up for us. She's a licensed cosmetologist and has worked as a youth pastor and Sunday school teacher for many years. She's a prayer coordinator for National Day of Prayer and has hosted food banks at the church. She's currently working with several groups, including the Colorado Coalition for Regional Transformation, Transform Our Valley, and the Clifton Transformation Group. Renee sounds pretty busy. Renee, thank you. Would you say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody. And I do know Maria.
And Renee, are you in fact a pastor? Is that correct?
Yes, I am as well, ordained.
Sorry for that mix up. Thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say that didn't fit on this slide?
No, the only other thing is I grew up in Wisconsin on a farm, but I've lived here quite a bit longer than I lived there. So I feel like this is more home.
What kind of farm in Wisconsin?
Well, we had not a big farm, just pigs, chickens, and mostly dogs, cats. And we had a big barn, but we didn't have cows or anything like that.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, Renee, so glad you're here. Thank you. And then Jeriel, our last panelist in absentia, Demetrius, was going to join us tonight and ran into a car wreck on the way home, so he may be late, but we know that he is physically okay. So with that, we'll move into our first question. I want to actually make note of Demetrius's several karate skills at the bottom of the slide, and we're going to miss out on some serious talent tonight.
Demetrius is actively texting me pictures so that we know that he is very serious, not attempting to get out of this panel. I'm sure he would have been a fabulous addition, and I hope he'll be able to jump on, but I think he'll probably be tied up.
Okay. So our first question is, and Raina, we'll have you go first. The question is, can you share with us a specific moment or experience in your life that impacted the way you see the world or the way you organize in your community? A specific moment in your life that really shaped the way you see things or the way you try to get things done. Raina's, what strikes you?
I guess it's not really like a specific memory or moment, but I was in the Army for 2 years and everything being strictly regimented and organized and backup plans for everything. I think I try to bring that organization in to help my community through the programs that I do with our library. And trying to organize and expand those to help benefit other communities around mine. That I think that is one big thing that has impacted how I do things, especially in my community.
Are those skills in demand at the library? Are they a needed addition?
Oh, absolutely. We have, youth programs, we have young adult programs, we have adult programs, then we have the whole family programs. And so it's a lot of organizing and trying to keep everything together while still being separate because we are limited in space. So a lot of our staging of things for activities have to be in similar locations. And so yeah, it's a lot.
We've got another minute or two. If I could ask you a follow-up. Did your time in military service shape how you think about service or patriotism or how one gives back to a local community? Is there anything that?
Yeah, absolutely. My time in the military, I noticed that a lot of the people that were going into the military were doing it strictly for the cash incentives, not an actual desire to serve their country. but because you get enlistment bonuses in so many of our jobs, because so many people don't want to go to the military. So, it was, they didn't want to follow the rules that kept everybody safe. And, so that really affected how I think of people in general now, as like, well, if I had been in the military with that person, would they have been a rule breaker, or would they have been one of those that really wanted to be there? So I think I kind of have that in the back of my mind every time I meet somebody new. And I don't know, I guess I just really try to see deeper into what they're saying and how they're acting. Whereas before I went into the military, I basically took everything on the surface. You said it, that's what you meant. It didn't matter to me whether it was true or not. But since that time in the military, I like to dig deeper.
Thank you. Maria, you're up next. So the question is, can you share with us a specific moment or experience in your life that impacted the way you see the world or the way you organize in your community?
I don't think I have a specific moment, but a lot of moments in my life in general. Since I was little, I would always help interpret for my parents, whether it was translating documents, making appointments, just everything in between. It helped shape me into becoming an interpreter as well as wanting to become a lawyer, because a lot of people suffer with having to be immigrants and not knowing what to do and what steps to take. And I've always wanted to be able to help out. And I've always dealt with a lot of people, who always want us to speak English because we're in America. And, it's like, well, it's the North American continent. So we're kind of all, even Canada, we're all American. But, we always get that judgmental look. And there's been countless of times where people have talked behind my back horrible things. And, they don't realize that I am fluent in English. And my parents have always taught me to be respectful, don't get in trouble, stay quiet, just, smile through it all. And I feel like now I want to be in that courtroom. I want to have the power to speak my mind, speak in behalf of those people that cannot because they don't understand what is going around them. And yeah.
Okay. Is that a common experience for other young folks that you grew up with, your peers? Do you know other people with parents or family that have gone through a similar thing?
Yes. Many of my friends whose parents don't speak English have, well, a lot of the times they've gotten, money stolen from them because they're like, oh, you owe this when they don't, or they've gotten, backstabbed, or, just different situations with a lot of my friends who have suffered through a lot of things.
Maria, thank you. Yeah, it's very powerful. Renee, last but not least on this question, is there a moment in your life or an experience that shaped how you see things?
Yeah, one of the moments that I thought of when I was talking to Jeriel, when I was about 50, I think it was right before my 50th birthday, we were in ministry already. We lived in a really nice middle-class home, something that we worked. My husband and I both came from more poorer backgrounds. So we had the dream house. We both had motorcycles, a nice car. My husband had a nice truck, and basically living the dream. Anyway, we ended up through a series of events, everything kind of fell out from under us and we lost our home. So anyway, our church was in Clifton, which is a more poverty area, and we lived in a real nice middle-class neighborhood. Well, with everything bottoming out in our finances, we both lost our income, and we ended up making a decision to just let go of our house. We couldn't save it. We probably could, but we probably have to work 2 jobs and we would not be able to minister. So we went ahead and let go of the house and we moved into the church. We made one of the areas, they started to make it into an apartment years ago, but it wasn't finished. So we moved into this tiny little apartment in the basement of our church in Clifton, which the area we live, there's a liquor store across the street, homeless people they were actually living in our entryways. So at the time we had been praying for transformation for our city, but it had to start in our own heart. So, I mean, we came to the church and the neighborhood, but we lived in a whole different lifestyle than what the people lived in. So we ended up moving in and having to face what everyone else faced in the neighborhood, just the crime and different things that go on here. So we started a food bank, and the one thing I did not want to do was work at the food bank. I had all my other ministries, but my husband was set on having a food bank. So I said, well, okay, I'll work there till we get people. And the reason I didn't want to work was because I came out of that poverty lifestyle and I just didn't want to be around it and the people and, you know, kind of forgetting where I came from. So anyway, I said, I'll do it. And as first day I worked there, I just fell in love with the people. I was practically just on my knees holding their hands and just loving on them. So then it became my favorite thing to do. We've had our food bank for 10 years and it's one of my favorite things. But really what it did, losing everything like I did, it just opened my eyes to the stuff was really meaningless. I mean, I did care about my stuff, but once it was gone, it's not who I am. And I also, can relate to the people when they come in, they're struggling and, we have all the pat answers. Well, get a job, do this, do that. But we really don't feel the compassion of what it's like when you can't seem to pull yourself out of, that situation. The homeless people, I mean, to even get a house, it's almost impossible if you don't have an address, if you don't have a place to take a bath, a place to even store your stuff while you're, moving across town. So, I mean, I look at people differently. I know all the homeless people around here, but it changed me to have to live where everyone else is living that I minister to. So that was one of the big things recent. I mean, I've had a lot of others, but that one really stood out to me.
Thank you, Renee, for sharing that. Our second question, and we will start with Maria this time. Maria, what keeps your family or people in your community, maybe in your neighborhood, what keeps you up at night? What are the big day-to-day issues that your family or your neighbors are facing? And thank you.
I would say it used to be the stress of uh deportation and stuff, but um even though it took her 14 years, my mom has her papers, so we can somehow live in peace, even though we still have like that fear that something could or will happen. But for now, it's kind of just money. We have like a lot of money issues. It's really hard to save up money when you live, paying the bills like from one check to the next. Um, we try to do everything we can just to, you know, live day by day, but it gets a little difficult at times. Um, Something neighborhood wise, I guess, we do have like a lot of issues around the neighborhood that we live in. We noticed that we're the only kind of Hispanic family living around here, and we've gotten like rocks thrown at our window and just different issues that we've had. So we kind of live with that fear also of, you know, the children getting hurt or somebody coming to steal something from our home.
I think one of the things we hear a lot here in the Grand Valley is the economic family stress, the kind of just making it day by day. Um, do you have a sense of whether that's changed in the last couple of years for your friends and neighbors? Is that gotten harder or easier or stayed the same, or what do you hear from people?
I think it's gotten harder. It has become easier for some people because they've gotten more jobs. As Renee says, we have to get more jobs in order to fulfill those bills. So for some people, as they get jobs, like they can make it, but I feel like it has just gotten more difficult over the years to maintain a job and maintain your bills and try to enjoy life is trying to enjoy life is kind of impossible sometimes.
Because folks are working so much, or the stress of it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. Um, Renee, you're up next. So the question is, what keeps your family or people in your community up at night? What are the big day-to-day challenges you face?
I think some of the biggest issues that we face in my neighborhood, and that my husband and I face just living where we do, is crime and poverty. People don't have a lot of money here in this area of Clifton. We live right in the like older part of Clifton. There's like more of the middle class area, but we're more in the low income area. Anyway, people don't have as much opportunity. We've talked about this with some other groups I've been in where the kids don't have as much things to do or money to do things. So we see a lot of people stealing stuff. Most people that come to our food bank depend on like government programs or us, to support them. They do, like some of them have Social Security and things, but most people in this area just don't have enough to make it without help. Right where we're at, we have a big homeless population, so we deal with that. Like I said, they used to try to sleep in our entryways. We have like these, our building's kind of like a big courthouse, and we have these entryways where they can go down in, and it's a nice place for them to sleep, but we don't allow it. They just feel safe there. A lot of them, because we have the liquor store across the street, they get their bottle and then they want to party on the church property. We've had one guy, now this was a couple years ago, I think it's been about 3 years, a homeless guy. He was outside our window and we were in bed watching a movie, and I could hear somebody screaming out my window. So we got up and we said, "Sir, you're going to have to leave." And so he's like, come out here, come out here. And he's screaming, "What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do?" Because people always use that on us. And we said, "Sir, you're going to have to leave. This is our home, blah, blah, blah. We're the pastors." So finally he said, "Come outside, let me see you." So my husband went outside, and I'd already called the police because the guy was like screaming at someone and nobody was there. So we knew he was on drugs or just completely nuts. So my husband went out and he jumped at my husband and he was swearing and spit in his face. He was that close. So my husband just kind of pushed his hands up because the guy lunged at him. And the guy was so drunk, and I guess he was on pills too, because when the cops came, they had a bunch of pills. So the guy kind of staggered and then he turned and he fell, but he hit his head on our cement planter. So he tried to tell the cops that my husband was pounding his head up on the cement. So he had a cell phone and he's telling the cops, "The pastor is pounding my head into the cement." And the cops said, "What's the address?" So my husband yells, 353 2nd Street, trying to get the cops there sooner. But so anyway, then the guy tried to sue us for $100,000. He got some lawyer in Denver. He also was harassing the police and said they were trying to cover it and all of this type stuff. But that was one incident. But we've also had a guy one night at 2:00 in the morning, another homeless guy scream in our bedroom window that he was going to kill us. And we were pretty sure we knew who the guy was. We didn't see him, but I ended up being able to minister to the guy later on in the winter. He was outside and we were in a restaurant, and I was going to go out the opposite door to avoid him because he'd given us trouble before and we had to call the police. This was a total different guy. But we had all these sleeping bags that we had been giving out to the homeless. So I told my husband, "Honey, I want to give that guy a sleeping bag. I have one left." And he said, "Well, he's probably already got one. It's already in, a few months into winter." And I said, "No, let's go get one and give it to him." So we came home, got the sleeping bag, and we ended up going back and giving it to the guy. And this guy had caused us a lot of trouble, but from that day on, we've never had any trouble since. So the other things that we have trouble with, or used to, not so much anymore, is people just stealing stuff that if you had anything sitting outside, they'd steal it. I mean, we give them stuff all the time, but they just feel that it's a church, we can just take what we want. So I actually had a homeless guy this earlier spring. I had these really nice irises coming up, and he's just about to steal a bunch of them, cut them off to take to his girlfriend. So I yelled out the window and I said, "What are you doing? You're stealing my flowers." "Well, I didn't know you were home." And I said, "Yes, I'm home. And even if I wasn't home, you are stealing my flowers." "Well, I didn't know you were home." And I said, sir, if you take them and I'm home, or if I'm not home and you take them, it is stealing. Do not take something that doesn't belong to you. But he couldn't understand that was stealing. So, I mean, we're coming from a whole different mindset here. So that's where we have to see. So I finally went out and I said, you know, next time ask me, I will be glad to give you some. And then I gave him a hug and sent him on his way. But, you know, people, they just sometimes, I mean, I don't know how this man grew up, but they don't understand right from wrong. So you kind of have to treat him a bit like a child that, you know, he didn't really think he was doing something against me. He just thought it was something that was pretty and free, and so he took it. So that's kind of what we're dealing with, is taking them under your wing and saying, okay, I forgive you, I still love you, but do not do this again.
Renee, thank you.
Joel,
It sounds like a tough type of service. Thank you. Raina, you're last but not least on this one.
Joel, I'm
Yes,
sorry. Can I just quickly make sure everyone can see all the panelists that are on the screen? Giving me thumbs up. Okay, for the most part, I was just getting a couple of, I just had one feedback that they could not see all panelists. One more time, thumbs up if you can see all panelists on screen. Okay, I'm only seeing one individual who's having some problems. So thank you so much. I will be quiet.
Raina, a time or an experience in your life?
Well, I think what keeps the people in my community awake at night is lack of work. And if they do have a job, who's watching their kids when they can't be there? Recently, our power plant got shut down, and that put a lot of our community out of work. A lot of people, they basically had to just uproot their whole families or split their family because maybe they had an elderly parent who couldn't move. And so like the dad had to move somewhere else to work while the mom and the kids stayed here to take care of family. And that's hard for me to watch because I see how much it hurts the kids with something that a lot of them are young enough, they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand that they're still a family, even though they're lucky if they get to see their dad on weekends. So that's the big thing here. Because the power plant shut down, but there's nothing coming in to replace those jobs for our people. So it's really causing, stress, especially in the kids, stress for the parents because now they're having to manage 2 households because the parents can't be in the same house because there's no work. Struggles because our teens are graduating and then they're having to move away to have a job because there's nothing here for them. And then it's financial stress because the parents are worried you know, what is my kid eating? Because they're not close. I don't know. So, I mean, it's work here is a really big issue.
Thank you, Raina. If you had to, what do you hear from other people? If you had to describe that experience to someone who lives in a town where they've never been rocked by something that big, I mean, what's it do to the spirit of the town and how people are thinking about their lives?
I guess basically I would have to tell them to imagine how the people felt when they lost everything in like Hurricane Katrina. They lost everything and had to leave.
Mm.
Or the fires in California where they lost everything. They had nothing. There was no home to go to because it was gone. And here, the power plant has been the heart and soul of our community since the beginning. That employs the majority of our community. And, for it to just be, it's gone. Either you move and you relocate to have a job at another power plant that is in 5 years going to be shut down itself, and you're going to have to do it all over again. Or, you've been working a job that pays $18 or $20 an hour, but to keep that kind of pay, you relocate or you take a job for minimum wage and it's only part-time. So, I mean, yeah, it's basically like having a natural disaster hit your community and being hopeless to do anything about it.
Raina, thank you. Our third question is, and Raina, you're up first on this, and it'll tie in to that really important topic you were just talking about. How do you feel about the direction your community is heading? What are the good things that are happening? What are the bad things that are happening?
Well, like I said, the bad thing, is we are losing so many of our working age community members because they have to leave to be able to provide for their families. But we are on the scenic byway, so we get a lot of tourism that comes through. So luckily our town gets, that financial boost for our local economy. And one of our locals, she grew up here. She went away to college, became a lawyer, and she came home. Well, she's been working to procure grants to redo our park here so that our kids actually have someplace safe and fun to go, especially if they have older siblings or they are the older siblings, they can take their younger siblings and have somewhere, they can be outside, they can be active while their parents are at work. Because here it's like both parents have to work to be able to, keep a roof over their head and, clothes, food. So that's been a really big community builder because with those grants to help, it purchases the equipment but it's up to our community. And a lot of it is she's going to the kids and saying, well, what would you like to see? What would be fun for you? So, you know, that is a big community builder to be able to bring them in to help build it and see their desires become a reality here. And it kind of gives our community a sense of we have a common thing and we can all work together on it. But I mean, that's really about it as far as, you know, what's going on in our community. Those are the two major things. And you know, a lot of people were very upset with the power plant being shut down. And I don't know, some of you may have seen the videos of it. They just recently imploded the building, basically. And that caused a big uprising, you know, of frustration in our community. You know, because it's been like a landmark for so long. So I think a lot of people felt that they were losing a piece of history when that building came down. And so hopefully, you know, this whole new, and I mean, it's a big playground with the ninja course and everything. So hopefully this will give them something else to build on.
Thank you very much. Renee, how do you feel about the direction your community is heading? What are the good things? What are the bad?
Well, I really am excited that we are seeing a lot of good things going on. We do have a lot of groups working together right now. We have a group, the Clifton Transformation Group. Churches obviously have been doing a lot here. But another thing that we're seeing is the police, the sheriff's department in the Clifton Fruitvale, which is Fruitvale's kind of connected to Clifton. This was a very high rate crime area. And we actually made in the newspaper, it was actually the 2018, the crime, I jotted down a couple of these because it was really exciting to us because we've been living in this area. I think we've lived in the church now 9 years. But in 2018, the burglary, car theft, criminal mischief, and all property crimes were down by 41%. Child abuse, child abandonment was down 33%. Sex crimes were down 50%. And then we had a real high rate of teen suicide going on, like almost like an epidemic. And people just rallied, and all the schools, people went around the schools and prayed. Different, you know, just kind of a grassroots, not organized, just probably via Facebook, people just said meet at the school. But that was 2016, I believe, when we had 14 teen suicides. And then the following school year, that was 2016 to 17. And then the 2018 school year, there was only 1 teen suicide. So, I mean, the last few years, it's kind of hard to keep a record if that's continuing with COVID and everything. But the sheriff's department, we had them speak at a prayer luncheon, and also the sergeant of the Grand Junction Police Department. And one of the things that they're doing is they're going on the offense rather than waiting for the drug dealers to go bust them. They talked to their guys and said, hey, this is your area, get out, meet the people, meet the neighbors, go to the drug house, knock on the door, meet the drug dealers, rather than waiting till they go in and bust them. And they said two things happen. For one, it builds community trust. And then two, if the dealers have a visit from the police, it scares them to, they either move out or, you know, they get a little bit quit with the traffic, knowing that the police are watching them. So those were some really neat things going on. We also started with the county, the kindness initiative. And what it is, you know, everything that's going on the internet, people fighting about everything. They wanted to just work in an opposite spirit. So we've started the kindness initiative, and one of the pastors, he's actually going to the schools dressed as Captain Kindness, dressed in like a Superman type costume, but just trying to teach people to be kind to one another. There's, you know, bullying, like Maria had talked about, that with just different races. I mean, we're all human beings. To start being kind to one another. And I mean, this should be a thing you should know in kindergarten, but you know, the older we get, the less kind we tend to be. So that's something going on. It's kind of a reminder, like do something nice, put your grocery cart back when you're done with it, just simple things like that. Oh, another neat thing, our building, we actually have two other churches besides ours in the building. So there's 3 different entities working here. And I noticed another church is doing the same thing. They have like 3 different people working in the same building, which is, you know, unusual that people can actually work together. I think that's amazing to be able to do. It's not always, I mean, convenient for us since we live here, but it's working. But one of the ladies, she's with the 970 church. She does a lot of after school programs, but we have these kind of like a little storefront. It's kind of kitty corner from where we're at. And it was a kind of a rundown little strip mall. Anyway, I kept telling my husband, hey, we need to rent that building, one of those buildings. And he said, well, what would we put in there? And I said, I don't know. I just feel like we need to rent it. Anyway, I talked to the owner and he was real discouraged because he couldn't get any decent people to rent that actually paid their rent. And the outside needed paint and everything. So the girl from 970 church, she does the children's church here. She's opening an after school program. So kids, when they get out of school, they have a place to hang out, and different people are coming in to teach. A group's going to teach dance once a week. So the kids here, because they can't really afford to go pay for a dance, they'll be able to get it for free to teach ballet and different types of dance. And then they're going to have different people come in and teach our kids here in Clifton. So they'll have an opportunity, you know, to do some things that they normally couldn't. So she is starting that. She's going to try to get it started whenever school starts. I think it's Monday. So it'll be going from 6 to 8, or wait, 4 to 6. So that's really a neat thing that's going on.
Renee, thank you. We'll when we hear from Demetrius, we'll see if he can come teach some jujitsu for some
Sure.
after school. I mean, it sounds like you folks are evolving and adapting in the most patient way to meet a lot of different needs out there. So, but it's very much, I bet it's a pretty small team that you know really has it in their hearts and is making it happen. Which is a story that is just repeated time and time again in these communities, right? It's a few people that just can't let it go. A lot of people on this call included. We have one more question, then we'll go to a Q&A. Panelists, before the Q&A, I'm going to give you a little break if it's like 60 seconds. But if you need to jump up, grab a water or catch a breath or run to another room, we'll give you just a little moment while people think about questions they'd like to ask. So our last question is, this is a big one, and we're going to encourage everybody to speak their truths, but do so in the spirit of public discourse here. There are no wrong answers, there are only insights. And Renee, we're going to have you go first. What do you think about the direction of our national politics?
I'm sorry, Joel.
Yeah.
We missed Maria.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Okay. Maria, back to question number 3. Thank you, Jeriel. Maria, how do you feel about the direction your community's heading? What's the good and what's the bad?
So I live in the kind of Grand Junction area, but the part that I wanted to focus on was like the Clifton community, as Renee has mentioned. So I won't go into like much about it all, but I live in the very close to Fruitville, so it's very close to where I live. So it's really close to my heart. And I'm part of the Clifton Community Outreach Program. And our vision is to connect the Clifton community and empower the residents to improve their quality of life. So far, we've interviewed like 300 people in the community, and we've like helped them improve Clifton. We've done like a trash pickup. We've met with our interviewers, and we've coordinated food box deliveries, and are in the works to help build a park. As like Renee had said, like we want to be able to give these children kids to do, because their parents are working 9-to-5 jobs, 2 jobs, and they don't have anybody to take care of their children. And we're also doing like a rec center, community center, so that we have daycare centers and just, you know, places for these children to go so that they aren't creating more crime in the streets and aren't, you know, out there by themselves. They have like a community here. Because they don't have transportation to make it out to other parks or other places. And so that's what we're doing right now. And that's what I believe is missing in a lot of different places, more involvement with the community from like the county, or just like, you know, higher power people. Because as Renee and Reina have said, you know, it takes just like a small group of people, even one, just to like start something. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to start something. And that's what I love about our community. It's slowly Clifton is starting to become something that people want to talk about, where people actually want to live.
Thank you, Maria. Question 4. Renee, we'll start with you. How do you feel about the direction our national politics are going? Do you think our political process is working for like you, for people like the folks that are living outside your doorstep? How do you diagnose what's happening now?
This is one I was kind of dreading. I don't have a lot of positive things right now about the administration. I have a lot of issues with the whole forcing of vaccinations, and just the, you know, saying they're gonna jail American citizens if we don't get vaccinations. I feel like our freedoms are being taken away. Defunding the police, living where I live, just the thought of that is horrifying to me. And the places where they have actually pushed this through. The violence is rising. I mean, I've got a list here. I'll make it as short as I can. The border crisis has gotten just out of control, which the news doesn't show a lot of that. I worry about the people at the border that think they can come in and can't come in because they were under the idea that our borders were open, and now we're going to have a rise in human trafficking, people in rail cars. The kind of going by my top things first, in case I get carried away here. The government funded abortion, which I don't agree with. The abortion industry makes billions of dollars, and then the government paying for it and forcing us to pay, I don't think is right. The taking the rights away from parents is getting out of hand as well. I mean, it started with kids not having to talk to their parents and getting an abortion without parental consent. Now, people are being forced to pay for their children to change their gender. I don't think children are they're not adult enough to make those kind of decisions. The whole Constitution being violated, the right to bear arms, freedom of speech. During COVID, shutting down the churches and businesses, so many businesses I've seen that we used to go to are now shut down because they weren't able to recover. I realize people are afraid, but you know, getting COVID or losing your livelihood, I mean, those should be the people's choice, not the government's choice. The censoring has gotten out of hand. I've been censored by Facebook just over things like having a prayer meeting. I've been censored over anything when you talk about the vaccine, the virus, they put their little things on your Facebook page, which, not saying the government's doing all that, but the government is allowing a lot of this and actually spying on Americans, which seeing who opposes the vaccines, which I think we have a right to our own medical. When the Obama administration was in, when we were forced to get medical insurance, my husband and I are very healthy people. I have not been to a doctor in like 32 years. We don't go to doctors, not saying we don't believe in doctors, but we're healthy. We were pushed into poverty. The company I was working for, it would have cost us $800 a month for medical insurance. So rather than him working and just giving $800 away for medical insurance that we would not use, he just went to part-time because then the government paid for our medical insurance.
Mhm.
So we're forced into poverty. And this reminds me of, okay, now we're being forced into this, or we won't be able to go into restaurants. Pretty soon it'll be grocery stores like we've seen with the mask. The other thing is nobody feels that I know, sorry, I'm not saying nobody, that's general, but a lot of people I know do not believe that the election process is fair anymore, that if I vote, will my vote actually go through? If we vote, is the person that America wants going to get in? There were so many discrepancies that I felt weren't investigated enough. I know we had people here, I don't know if it was the postman or who it was, were actually caught throwing ballots along the side of the road here in Grand Junction. And we're, a small town that for the most part, more honest than other areas. The other thing that I don't agree with was shutting down the pipeline, the Keystone pipeline, which, as everybody can see, our gas has doubled. I'm a person who travels a lot, and now I flew 6 times to Wisconsin. My sister had cancer, and I was able to fly cheaper from Grand Junction all the way to Wisconsin. Then now, immediately with the new administration, the prices went way up again that I can't afford to fly. The other thing I felt was
Renee, because you have a great big laundry list there. Can I ask you just a real quick follow-up, and then we'll move to the other two?
okay, sure.
What's it like? I mean, if I very much get the feeling that you wake up every day with this sense that like country's under attack. Some of
Yeah.
our most like the basic stuff that keeps the world spinning. It's kind of just, is being undermined on a daily basis. I mean, how do you personally cope with that? Or how do you make sense of all that?
Well, personally, I pray for our country. I worked with National Day of Prayer, and so I have prayed for our country, and that's one of the things on my heart. I've lived in this country a long time, but to see this, yeah, it angers me, but it also frightens me for my grandchildren. If this is how it is now, how is it going to be, in 10 years from now, if they cannot have freedom to make choices, about their medical, if they have no choice about what they can speak, if they're shut down when they have a different opinion. There's so many things that, is it going to be safe for our children if, there isn't protection from our police department? We personally need them here. I want our family to be safe and to be able to trust that the administration cares about us, not just about their little things that they want to push through. What about us, the American people? Are we safe anymore?
Hmm.
So prayer, that's my way of giving it to God, because I don't have control over it.
Okay. Renee, thank you. That's a big list. Maria, you're up next. Whatever your answer to this is, how do you feel about the direction of our national politics? What's good? What's bad? How do you feel about how we're heading?
Well, we live in a neighborhood that's mostly of Caucasian people, and we kind of feel like we're alone in our little community at times. Most of our friends don't live as nearby, and so we've gotten close to our neighbors, but it took us a while to get there. So we do say hi to them and everything, but we know that they are on the opposing side of what, like, of, nationally, everything. So it is hard for us to show what we voice our opinions. We can't put out like a political sign for fear of being attacked. And like, as I mentioned before, yes, we have been attacked. Another instance was when my family had been gone. They had gone to Denver. Um, I came home and our mailbox had been blown up. And our neighbor from in front was like, "Oh, it sounded like it was like a big firework, like, or something big." it ended up in our rooftop and like over on his lawn. So like the whole mailbox was literally flipped inside out. And it was scary. I was here by myself, and we live with these kind of things around here, like all of the riots and everything that have been happening. We feel like, we can't voice our opinion, and even though we do vote, oh, we feel like Renee does, does our voice count? Does our vote count? Are we even entitled to that vote, since my parents immigrated from the other side over here? Like, just because we live here now, and because my dad is a US citizen now, my mom is a resident, and I was born here, I'm a US citizen, do we have a say in it? Is our race and ethnicity like blocking us from putting our votes in or anything? We don't feel like we are free to do that, even though the national anthem states that it's the land of the free. It's so hard to believe that at times, because we feel that oppression. It's displayed in our everyday lives, from healthcare to our welfare, from our education to our religion, like, and of course our environment is suffering. It's just so many things that is wrong with our nation, that so many people are, it's so controversial. So yeah.
What's how did you explain the mailbox to your young ones?
So thankfully I was home alone. So I had gone to work, and when I came home, that's what I had found. I did not have to, tell them what happened, but we did buy a mailbox before they had come back. So I only had to explain it to my mom and dad, and like the three older siblings. And when they found out, because they saw the mailbox, they were like, "What happened?" I'm like, sometimes vandalism happens, and some of our little high schoolers, they're like, "Oh, they were going around and like doing stuff to like schools. Maybe like they had just come by and done something." I'm like, "Yeah, I think that's what it was, just kids playing pranks and stuff like that." Like, we try to explain stuff to them, but also we try not to, feel like their lives are in danger, because we don't want them to stress out with these kinds of issues. And at times it is bad to keep them in the dark about certain things. And they aren't kept in the dark about everything. But, that was one instance where I didn't feel like, they should have known. And, after a while, like, we kind of told them, yeah, somebody put like a firework or something in there. And they see what happens in the news, and they know like where we live and everything that goes on around us, and they put two and two together. They come to us and they tell us, is it because we're Mexican? Is it because of the color of our skin? And I have to say yes. I mean, or maybe not, who knows? We don't know the reason for why people would do the things that they do.
Thank you, Maria. Um, Last but not least, Reina. How do you feel about the direction of our national politics? Anything good? Anything bad?
I think for longer than I've been alive, probably, there hasn't been much anything good come out of politics. We have too many career politicians that are no longer for the people that put them there. And I think more recently, the media has played a major role in everything that goes on in our lives, because they are not reporting the facts. They do chop jobs. They twist the facts based on what they want people to know. So unless you are there hearing the person yourself, hearing the exact words come out of their mouth, you're not getting the full story of what's going on. And Fox says one thing, CNN says something different, but it came out of the same exact speech from the same person, the same time, but you're getting two different stories because they cater to two different political beliefs. And so instead of our media reporting facts and letting the American people decide how they feel, the American people are being told how to feel by the people who are supposed to be reporting the news. So that in itself makes me very frustrated, along with everything that Renee and Maria said. You know, are rights being stomped on every day? Absolutely. Because somebody somewhere always has an agenda. And they always want everybody to believe the way they believe. And if you believe different, you're wrong. There is too much of a divide in our country with politics. We're letting it be you're liberal, you're Democrat, you're Republican, instead of you're a person. And until the people of our whole world is doing this, not just here in America, but until the people, especially here, start seeing each other as human beings who have opinions, who have rights, who have their own wants and desires, this divide is just going to continue. And as long as we let political affiliation define who we talk to, as long as we let the fact that somebody might have darker skin or speak a different language determine who we talk to, this country is never going to get better. And unfortunately, I don't think it's ever going to get better. No matter what we do, there are always going to be people who will push to divide, because dividing means they can step into power. And as long as there are those people, there is no real unity. It's not possible. Because you will always have, it's like, you know, in cartoons, you see the angel on one shoulder, the devil on the other. Well, who are you going to listen to? Unfortunately, so many people like the sound of what the devil says more. So I don't think our elections are honest. I know our media is not honest. And I know it sucks, but I don't think it's getting better.
Okay, thank you, Raina. We are at a question and answer time. Panelists, if you want to jump up, grab a water, or take a little quick break, please do so. You've been talking for a minute here. Jeriel, how much time do we have in total left?
We have 12 minutes for
Okay.
question and answers. We have not set up our audience attendees to ask questions yet, so maybe we should allow a minute and for them to type some questions into the chat.
Okay, so I that's a real short window. I think, what if we aim for the following? If anybody has a specific question for one panelist, I think we have time to probably get one question per panelist. So if you might indicate in your question, I'd like to ask Raina, Maria, Renee X thing, and we'll have to take the pick of what comes in here. But we'll give everybody about 60 seconds to put something in there. And panelists, thank you so much. And that's questions in the chat. Jeriel, would you like me to get us started with one and give folks a moment to think?
I actually have a question.
Okay, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a long one. My question is to each of you, and it's just, how often are you asked? And I would love after this particular evening to check in with all of you to see how you felt sharing on the panel. But my question is, how often do you have an opportunity to share your thoughts outside of maybe like your family unit? Do you feel like people are heard often enough in community, or is that something that we're missing?
So I guess I'll go. I think so much of the time we're so wrapped up in our own lives, our own work, our own family, that we kind of forget we're a community and then we have to talk to each other. So it's like you have those brief conversations in passing, hey, how are you at the grocery store? Or, something like that. But I don't think there's nearly enough honest, deep conversations going on in our communities at all.
I don't think, yeah, I agree with Reina. We don't really get an opportunity to, express our opinions or our thoughts. I feel like they, or just people in general, don't really like try to listen whenever others try to speak. The job that I have with the CCO actually gave me the opportunity to be able to speak up for, my community and the people that I associate myself with, or that like they associate themselves with. So thanks to my job with the CCO, I've gotten the opportunity to share my opinion.
I think a lot of people share on Facebook because people want to be able to be heard. And I think, they have a tendency to, you see a lot of anger and things, but because it's bottled up and people don't get a chance to share how they feel, and people shut them down, that is an outlet. And I noticed we had in the newspaper, it was called You Said It in our newspaper. And it gave people a chance to like vent. But there were also a lot of times people appreciating others and saying good things, because I think if we communicate, I used to just always listen and never speak because I felt like what I had to say wasn't valuable. And the first time that I ever had somebody ask my opinion or how I felt, I broke down crying, because I just wasn't, like, growing up, nobody cared about my opinion. So I think people need that. And finding ways. I know Maria was in a group, we were working, going door to door and asking people how they felt about the community. They were like very open to share. It made them feel like my voice matters. And we had, was it over 300, Maria? People that we talked with, and we were able to share with other community leaders what the community actually wanted to see changed, rather than us just coming up with a great idea and then forcing it on them. It meant a lot to the people. And a lot of them that I talked to were in our food bank, and they constantly asked me, how's that group going? What's going on? And they just felt like they were a part of changing the community, and it changed them. It made them feel valuable. So I think the more ways we can hear people, the better, and not everything they said to me I agreed with, but we just listened like you guys are today. We really appreciate that. Thank you all. Because I'm sure you don't agree with everything we've said, possibly.
5 more minutes. There is one question to chat specific to Maria. Does anybody else have any other questions they want to ask? Maria, the question for you, other than are you a lawyer? I see your answer there. What needs to improve, or what would you like to see improved in the Latino community in Clifton? Or specifically the question asker asked Latinx community.
A lot of the things that I see in the community is just the lack of communication. Um, People feel like they don't want to be heard, and they feel like they aren't welcome because as soon as they are asked for their background, as soon as they come into a place, they are asked for their background, and so people are afraid to be able to voice their opinions or go into an office or something, because as soon as they walk in, they're afraid that they might get deported, go to jail, anything like that. So I feel like something that's really needs to change is more interpretation, more translation of materials, and just the need for being open with people, and like being open, but also respecting the privacy of everybody, because you know, as we all like to keep our privacy, they are afraid to overshare for, fear that they might be sharing too much and be put in danger.
Okay. We have a question. Thank you, Maria. We have a question for Renee. Renee, what does a healthy community look like on the other side of COVID? Something that's healthy, that's sustainable out there. You're doing so much around homelessness and talking about the impacts of crime in that area. Are there other things that would be really good components of a healthy place?
Well, one of the things I would like to see, and this was kind of things that the community had come up with, was having like festivals and different things here, where people can come together. And Clifton really doesn't have a lot of things like that. We're kind of looked at as more of a drug place. And I would like it to where people felt like, oh, Clifton, we have this, farmers market, we have festivals, it's a safe place to live. And where we're working on the parks and different things here, the school parks, just where people would feel it's a place that they would want to live. I know we're cheaper here and people move here because it's cheaper, but the reason it's cheaper is because it's not a desirable place as much to live. But we do have a lot of beauty with the mountains around here, and it's a very beautiful place. But to see it healed, where neighbors take care of neighbors, we did go to one neighborhood where everyone knew each other. And everyone that we talked to loved the neighborhood and loved Clifton. But when we went to other areas where people didn't feel safe, some of them wouldn't even answer the door or answer our question because they felt like we might break in or something. So to me, a healthy neighborhood would be, or a community would be, where you felt safe to raise your kids. If the kids went to the park, maybe rode their bike a couple blocks, you would feel they would be safe. safety was a big concern with our residents and also for myself. There's times I don't feel safe. I mean, I don't feel too bad walking around out here, but when I'm at night sleeping, I lay awake just listening for noises. Is this a normal noise? Is it a bad noise where I need to call the police? I think to heal our area, people getting to know each other, because crime doesn't happen as much if everyone knows each other. You know, they go to places like to steal, burglarize, where people are not close knit. So that would be a big thing, is getting everyone to start interacting. Some people, the only thing that they attended was, and the only thing they felt connected with was the school, because they would take their kids to school and then go home, and they didn't have interaction in any other part of the community except to take their kids to school. So if we had places where people could interact, whether it's like churches, people that went to church did feel more connected because they knew people in the congregation. But as far as others, a lot of them didn't have a place to go. I would like to see more like places where you'd have coffee shops where you could just hang out there, meet your friend, and just sit and have coffee and talk. We don't have a lot of places like that, you know, where you could just hang out for, you know, a couple hours. If you go to, you know, a restaurant, you eat and then leave. But just seeing more things like that in our community.
Okay, thank you. Good luck on all the work you're doing out there. And then I wanna get Raina in here one more time. If you have a magic wand, but we can't get the plant back reopened, you know, what do you want the future of that town to look like? If you wake up in 10 years and things have gone well, what's it look like?
I guess if I had a magic wand, there would be decent jobs with no drama, because we are a small town, so everybody knows your business before you're done doing your business, basically. So decent jobs where families could stay together. Kids could be safe, have a variety of things to do, whereas right now they're very limited on what we have available for them. And just people being happy in general. That would be the ideal community. You know, people being able to have honest conversations with each other and not have to worry about, well, am I offending this person because I'm saying something they don't necessarily agree with? You know, so it would be open, honest communication with jobs for the people who are here. And if people did go away to college, there would be jobs for them to come back to if they did choose to come home afterwards. So that's, I think that would be a good community. If I could wave my magic wand, that would be it.
Thank you so much. Panelists, you'll see there are tons of comments in the chat thanking you all for coming and sharing, you know, really personal stuff and stuff that's close to your hearts and stuff you've struggled through and stuff you're helping other people struggle through. I think obviously, I pretty sure we were 3 for 3 there, that more of this would be helpful for virtually everybody we know in our lives. And the nature of modern life and life right now is that people don't get to do a lot of this. So we're grateful for you helping show us how this is done, and thank you all for speaking candidly. This Saturday, Western Car Alliance, we have our annual conference, and we also have a special keynote speaker from another part in the country where people are doing this to really profound community organizing and community development effect. They're using deep listening, deep conversations, deep canvassing to really solve problems. And so I hope everybody will join us for that. If you're not in the know, information is at our website, westerncoloradoalliance.org. And with that, thank you everyone for joining us. Let's give a round of applause or some waves to our panelists. Yay, Maria, Raina, Renee, thank you so much. And Jeriel, if I've missed anything, wrap me up.
No, nope. I think you all did a fabulous job, and just ditto everything Joel said. And thank you everyone for attending.